really feel like my mom has a lot to heal and to speak on that I don't, something that I don't even know about. I don't think she don't have that safe space.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, breaking the toxic cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess ups, make ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real,
Welcome
and it
to
might
another
just change the
episode
way
of
you see
Fatherhood
family.
Voices. And I don't know if that name fits anymore because now we've had moms on and we've had sons and daughters on sharing their story. And I'm excited today to have Hazley on. And she's from New Jersey. And she's going to share her story about coming to the States and then also what life was like without a dad in her early years, and then how that transitioned into having a mom bring someone into her life, and then her dad came in. So just a whole mixture of things. And we're going to dive in, Hazley, and let you introduce yourself, and then we're going to get into your story. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Hazley. I am 27 years old and I am on a healing journey and it's been a process, but doing the work every day, and I can say now I'm on the other side. Yeah, I'm on the better side of it. So I'm happy to be here and share my journey and what I've learned so far.
You know, I'm excited because you're the same age as my oldest daughter. And I know off camera, I was telling you about how me and my daughter didn't talk for 6 years. Yeah, over some choices she made that I wasn't a fan of. And, when you're in that old toxic narcissist behavior, sometimes it's so easy to just cut off family. And I was quick to do that. Wow, so this is gonna be an interesting one. So let's start off with kind of where you grew up at and what childhood looked like for you.
Yes, so my mom had me in Jamaica when she was 15, and I came over here when I was 3. So lived in South Jersey for like most of my life. Grew up in Cumberland County, went to Bridgeton High School. Um, kind of stayed to myself, really wasn't in the cliques or anything like that. But for the most part, yeah, I just was kind of like the shy person, I guess. My childhood, I would say I had a pretty decent childhood, but things started going left around like my teenage years. Just um, I would say like the culture and tradition I'm realizing played a lot in my behavior when I was a child. I didn't really like to speak on certain things. Kind of was scared to get in trouble. Um, things like that.
Now, let me ask you a question. So in your early childhood, now it was your mom that raised you, and
Mostly my mom, I would say from when I was like a toddler up until teenager was more so a group effort because my mom had to work 2 jobs and go to school. She had me young. So it was kind of like everyone's at grandma's house. So grandma, aunties, kind of that. Everyone's pitching in to help.
got it. And then when you were young, now your father wasn't present, correct?
No, I actually did not met my father until graduating high school, like actually seeing him, having a conversation with
Okay. Now, when you were a child, so I'll just, Father's Day comes up and stuff. I mean, did you was it just
him.
like normal that dad wasn't around, or did other people step in, or how did you?
um, no, my mom would kind of just say like, "Well, I'm your mom and your dad,"
Mm,
so kind of one of those things like it's one of those things where you don't know it's a void until later on. Like you think it doesn't affect you because you never had it. But then as I started healing, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing where it did affect me. But as a child, younger, it kind of was like out of sight, out of mind. Um, I didn't really know that it affected me or that I even wanted like a relationship, like to have a relationship with my father.
that's important that you share that, that you shared that because um, your mom kind of stepping in and being kind of mom and dad, it allowed you to not have that void. And I think that's important for for other children that are out there, because there's a lot of children whose fathers aren't present. And what advice would you give as little Hazley, um, looking back and speaking to other moms right now and saying, hey, you know what? If dad's not around, these are some things you can do so that we don't fill that void. Because eventually, you're going to have to face it, but to kind of
Hmm.
shelter their childhood where they're not going to fill that void. If the father either chooses not to want to be in their son or daughter's life, or just can't because maybe they're incarcerated, or maybe they're out of the country or something.
Um, it's interesting that you asked that because I have a friend that is going through the situation where their child's father is not in their life. And they ask me questions, and I try to tell them, like, don't blame yourself, just be transparent. I feel like the best advice would be to pour love into your kid, into your child. It's kind of like you have to love them even more because you're making up for that absent parent, father, mother, whoever is not there. Because what I realized, you internalize it. You start to feel like, why am I not good enough to be loved by mommy or daddy? And that was like a realization for me. So I would say be transparent, let them know if you can, like, once they get older, what the situation is, but you kind of have to like love them even harder now, even more.
Now, did you ever, when you were small, ask about your dad?
I did.
And how
I
did that go?
did, but so there is a lot of, I would say there's a lot of trauma between my mom and my dad. And there's parts that I won't say because my mom still hasn't told her story.
Yes.
But when I would ask, it was like nothing good. So I stopped asking. I just accepted, like, okay, this is what it is.
Okay, so she pretty much sheltered you from the trauma, so to speak, and just chose not to voice it.
She voiced it, but it was more like you're better off without him type of energy.
Okay. And then so now you're going through elementary school, junior high school, mom's giving you tons of love and making up for that. Now, were there any role models that stepped in? Uncles, grandfathers, coaches, teachers?
Yes, I had a lot of my teachers played a very, very teachers, counselors, I will say every time I run into them, like I'll cry or they check in with me, send me an email, and they're just like so amazed like how I turned out because they were like with me going through the process, um, correcting me when I was wrong too, when I was doing wrong. So I will say there were father figures from the school and other males in my family, yes.
So you think that was an important part of your childhood, is having other men that stepped up to kind of replace that, step in as a role as a father for you.
Yes, I feel like it does help at the time. However, I will say it's like 50-50 for me because although I can see where it benefit me in those areas, it it's still there was still like a desire. I don't know if that makes sense, like a desire for like my own dad. Like I would see my peers and other friends have their mom and their dad at their soccer games, at their track meets, and I always would kind of like internalize, well, why why I didn't have that life. Like I was not envious that they had it. I just was like, well, why don't I have that as well? Why don't I have that support? And even though people would try their best to show up for you, it honestly it's like, okay, thank you. But if I'm being honest, it does not feel the same. It does I'm looking for the word. It's still like there is a missing piece to the puzzle there. It's still like there's something. It aids in certain ways, but there's still a void there.
So is there something that they could have done to help lessen that void? Because that right there, what you're sharing is powerful. And if we can find a best practice or a solution to help even minimize that void even more, that would help thousands of people. And I don't know if there's an answer for that because
Yeah, I've asked myself that question too. Like, okay, I don't think there's anything anyone can do or you can do yourself externally. I feel like you have to be okay with saying, okay, this is what it is, and it's hard. It's like radical acceptance. And sometimes I feel like I accepted it already, but then I'm finding it's coming up where I haven't fully accepted. I feel like when you fully accept something, it's like you no longer want it to change. Prior, I wanted it to change. Like I wanted a dad, a father figure. So I think that's for me. I can only speak for me. That's what it is.
now you say radical acceptance, and that kind of stood out. Um, so what does that mean?
That's a theme for me. Yeah, accepting the situation how it is, not trying to alter it, not trying to change it, fully accepting like this is where I'm at. This is how I feel. This is the truth. Um, yeah.
And when did you come up with that term, or when did you kind of come with that radical acceptance?
Just oh, I feel like once you reach a breaking point, I feel like that's when change happens. When you're being crushed, when life is pruning you, and it's like, okay, yeah. I feel like through my experiences, my journey, the hardship that I've been through, it's like instead of trying to see the situation differently or how I'm going to overcome or get out of something, no, look at what it is and accept it. Like this is some ugly shit right here, pretty much.
How old were
hmm
you when you had your breaking point?
I feel like I keep having them. That's funny you asked me that. I feel like I've matured very fast. But I can realize at the times, different ages, where how mature I thought I was, I actually wasn't, even though I was ahead of my time. So I would say from 16, I've had to been on my own. So from 16 until now, I've had moments of realizations. Um, the biggest one I would say is when I turned 25. It was like, and some of my hairdresser, she was telling me, she like, that light bulb is gonna go off. And
Mm.
it was a feeling that I've had 24. Like when I turned 24, I was feeling something. I kept telling her, she like, wait till you turn 25. And that's when it just, yeah.
Okay, so we're definitely going to go back to that. I'm going to make a note there. Now, you said you connected with your dad right after high school.
hmm
Okay, now was this had your mom already brought someone back into her life with you, or was it after the fact?
This was this was after.
Okay,
So I was living with my mom,
okay.
going to high school with my mom up until sophomore year. And then I was staying with an aunt and a cousin. Finished high school, and they were like, "Okay, we don't want this problem no more." Basically, I guess. So I don't blame them. My mom was kind of being difficult at the time. One of those things where it's like we want to help, but we don't want what comes with trying to help you situation.
So were you the one that reached out to your dad?
It was like I reached out and he was trying to reach out to me. That's what he said. He was always trying to like find me, like, but it was kind of through my brother in Jamaica. So once I told him what was going on here, he was like, "You can come stay with me in New York, go to school there." Mm, didn't really like. It wasn't how I thought it would be. The support. Um, I would say like my dad is not like a father. He was like a friend, and it was very different. It was very different for me to be in that environment because I'm used to. I was used to my mom being strict, and now I'm with living with my dad, and it's like you can do whatever you want. And I could have taken that liberty, but I just was like, well, I guess just how I was raised, I was like, no, like I'm gonna focus on school and do this. So I see where like the parenting, it was like there was no like actual guidance or anything like that. So
And have you ever had that real conversation with your father? No.
No, I've tried. I won't say I've tried as much as trying to work through me and my mom relationship because the thing with my mom was there up until a certain point. My dad, pretty much non-existent. So there's more of a emotional attachment with my mom because I've been with her. When my dad is like, I don't really know you, and I, I guess I would say I haven't been as invested.
One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have someone from my team send you a journal. We created this journal, and it's a weekly journal where you call up your dad and you ask him questions. And they're just, some are
Oh
just
wow.
very, who was your childhood friend, memories, and then some go a little bit deeper. And maybe like,
Mhm.
why couldn't you, what are the obstacles that stopped you from being in my life and so forth. So it kind of builds up.
I like
And
that.
we
Thank
created this
you.
journal to be able to open up the door and have these conversations because a lot of children don't have relationships with their parents like this, and it's a very surface level. And what this journal was intended to do was to start to peel the layers and really start to ask the deeper questions that sometimes we feel embarrassed to ask or don't feel like we have the right to ask them because we don't have that connection with them. So I think that journal, if you're open to it,
Yeah.
could be um, something that you could start to explore with your dad because you'll get a lot of, you may get a lot of answers if he's open to share with you. And they're not just like
Hmm.
all about me, but they're just about their childhood and their upbringing and so forth. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll
That
make sure.
sounds nice. Yeah, thank you.
And even to do it with your mom also, because although you have a strong connection with your mom, there may be things that you don't know about your mom that you've just never, asked, and it
Hmm.
forces you to have, or it opens a door to have these conversations. You know, so I think one of the questions in there was like, "Who was your first love and why?" So
Just to get to know them. Yeah.
absolutely to get to know them on a different level, not just as mother and daughter or father and daughter, but just on a different level. So now, are you still in contact with your dad?
The last time I spoke to him was probably over 2 years ago, maybe. And I know where he is as far as that, but I haven't spoken to him.
Can I ask what's kind of kept you from reaching out?
Um, so intentionally, I was trying to work on both my mother and my father relationship. Um, I I will say I kind of put a pause with my dad because some things that my mom told me, I don't know how to ask him if this is what occurred or not. I feel like whatever happened between them and the trauma between them is like it's affecting me too, in a way, yeah. So when I discovered that, I it didn't really sit well with me, and I don't know if by trying to have a relationship with him is hurting my mom, or I don't know if I feel guilty or like should I even have a relationship with him. I will say I have not. That's something that you're pulling it out of me. That's something that I've been avoiding. I didn't want to get
Well,
to.
it's I was speaking to someone not too long ago who just reached out to their dad, and their dad came from a rape, and so now they're struggling because they want to get to know their dad, but the way that they were conceived was in a very violent way, and so now you have the mom
Pretty
that
much, pretty
set.
much my story.
Mm,
Pretty much that, and it's crazy that you say that because I don't know, like, oh wow, I don't. It's very complex
it,
because I'm a product of someone else's trauma, and do I reach out to this person that caused it, or does that mean like I don't love my mom, or now my mom hates me, and I feel like that's how the trauma is playing in this thing.
Yeah, the one thing I will give a perspective on is, your mom's journey and your dad's journey, that's their journey. And sometimes as children, we're just casualties. We're just casualties of the situation. Um, but at the same time, it shouldn't rob you of the relationship that you establish with whoever you choose to establish with. If you choose to establish a relationship, and yes, there's a lot of complexities in there, but as long as you're very honest and upfront with your mom, and letting her know, like, I appreciate what you've done, and you're my mom, and I've seen you as my dad, but I have answers. I have questions. And it's unfortunate that some people never are able to get the answers because their parents pass away, and there may be a point in your journey where you're going to want answers, and that's where the healing really starts. It starts with forgiveness. It starts with first forgiving yourself because it's not your fault, and then it's forgiving those around you, your mom, your dad, and being able to activate your chakra so that you can speak. You can speak freely, and your voice can be heard. You know.
Mm.
So just a little side piece, just
Ooh,
because, like I said, I was just dealing with something like just in the last week, and they came to me and said, "But I want to get to know my dad, but it's going to hurt my mom, and my mom's angry at me." So it's navigating,
it's like how do
yeah.
and I feel like because of what she went through and not being able to really tell her story or heal from it, um, when I spoke my truth to her about her husband touching me inappropriately, it's like it's hard for her to see or believe. I don't know, but that's what caused me and my mom relationship to like be non-existent. And although I could have been like, well, you chose to stay married to this man knowing what he did to me, why, oh, I'm gonna have a relationship with my dad. I don't feel that way. I still feel like it's hard. It's even hard for me to try to have a relationship with my dad now, knowing like what he did to you. So that's something that I've always like. I don't know how to navigate that.
So I'll give you a little bit of a unsolicited advice. It starts with peeling the layers on your dad's journey. What does his child look like? How was he raised? And then so that would be your grandfather, and then how was his grandfather? Because it's that ancestral lineage, and it's that trauma that repeats itself. So I'm not saying that it's okay, and I'm not validating, that he wasn't there. What I'm saying is, we as fathers, we only love the way we know how to love. We only love the way we're shown love. So I was hard on my girls. I didn't show them a lot of emotion because that's how my father was. And as much as I said I wasn't going to repeat the cycle, I did repeat the cycle. And then when I go back and I look at, my father, and I look at my grandfather who passed away when I was very young, he didn't show them, my father or my uncles or aunts, emotion. So it's a cycle. And if you
Mm,
want answers, you have to peel the layers, because as parents, we don't have a rule book on how to love our children. As children, we have the expectations on how we want to be loved. We look at movies and we read books and we watch our friends, but that's not reality, especially movies and TV shows. You look at the Cosby Show, you look at All in the Family, different things, and there's this component in place, but there's a lot of chaos that happens in families. And when we dive deeper into the layers, there's a lot of complexities that come into it. And there's hurt, there's pain, there's trauma, there's resentment. And, if we truly want to, of course, the true essence of healing is forgiveness. It's forgiving,
mm,
but that's where it starts. It starts with starting to understand your parents' upbringing, and especially your father's upbringing, but even your mom's upbringing, because now we're going to kind of dive into something that you shared is, so your mom brought someone into her life Did she marry him?
Hmm.
And then there was a point where um, there was some something that happened, that inappropriate touching and so forth. When did that start?
It happened when I was 12. I
Okay,
didn't tell anyone until I was 13. And then
okay,
I told my mom like 15, going before turning 16.
okay. And how
It
did your
wasn't
mom?
an on it wasn't an ongoing thing. But I just knew it, like I was so scared to tell. I just knew it was gonna change a lot. So
And how did that change the dynamics with your relationship with your mom?
years years now, it's still this whole debate. Like, um at first it was like, okay, it was like she didn't know who to believe, me or him. We had this conversation, I want to say August last year. It came up again where I really vocalized myself this time, and she said she doesn't believe that it was intended in a inappropriate way or anything like that. Pretty much, she doesn't believe like what I'm telling her. So prior to that conversation, I thought we were on the right path because she had apologized for just the excessive beatings and things like that. And the culture is not, it's not considered abuse or whatever. And she said, well, this is, like you said, this is how I was raised, this is how I was brought up, so I only know how to do this. But if it affected you in any way, I'm sorry. So I thought we were on the right path, but when the subject of her husband comes up, it that's when things start getting very difficult again. And then I have two other sisters, um, younger sisters. So it's hard to have a relationship with them as well. I can see where it impacted our relationship. Um, Pretty much, my mom, she chose her life and and it took me a while to accept that. And I think I just carried the, the guilt, like, oh, I'm the one that destroyed the family by speaking up. Um, I felt like for a long time she was angry at me because when you speak about things in your household, now everyone's looking at you like your business is like, everyone's in your business now. Now they're judging you now. Oh, you're what she said. Everyone's calling her a horrible mother and things like that. So I feel like she was very hurt that like I just started speaking the truth. Yeah, I kind of never like still to this day I don't fully understand like how much like how she actually feels because we never get to that. We never get over that. Like, and I've asked, like, you want to sit down? You want to? I've gone to therapy. I've done my own therapy. I asked, you want to have a third party? She doesn't. She's not open to it.
So she just chooses to just kind of bury it under the rug and just move forward, which
Pretty
is very.
much, and that's what she said. Like, what was I? What was I supposed to do? Choose you over them? And she said, well, I had to move on with my life. And I think at that moment last year, like the little girl in me was like begging my mom, like, I'm. Why don't you believe me? Tell me, I'm telling you the truth. And after seeing her reaction with just frustration instead of like compassion or, empathy, that's when it hit me like it's not like it's not gonna change. And I just kind of like saw her pain and she said, well, do you know what I had to go through for you to get here? So when I was telling her like my trauma, she kind of just so in that moment I just paused and was like, okay, I feel like it's just because she didn't get to heal, the things that she went through. She can't see me. She can't see my pain right now. So I think prior I was angry, but this time, even though I was upset, it was like I kind of just wanted to hug her. Like I had compassion, but I just had to. disengage.
You had shared that you started your journey with plant medicine, and that's been a big part of your healing process.
Yeah.
How did that start, and how did plant medicine come into your life? And
Well, I was in the coaching program with Danny and went on the retreat to sit with plant medicine. I would say from then, since since sitting with plant medicine, it's like okay. It was very, very uncomfortable at first. I didn't like the journey at first, but a lot of things, a lot of clarity, especially with my mother, came up for me. So I feel like once I did that, I just started kind of peeling the layers back, like you said, just digging deeper, digging deeper.
do you journal?
I was at one point, I haven't been consistently, but I was journaling.
And what about meditation?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, it was a struggle at first because my mind would just go, go, go. And I'm seeing how that is how like I was showing up in other areas. Like I was just my mind wouldn't shut off. So meditation has helped a lot.
Yeah, I would encourage you to get back into journaling, because being able to sit with yourself and just kind of journal your thoughts, you'd be surprised at the epiphanies you can have, or the aha moments where you just start to have these breakthroughs. And I would actually encourage you to write a letter to your inner child, to little Hazley, and write a letter to her. And maybe it's time for you, as a 27-year-old, to go back and visit maybe that little 6, 7, or 8-year old, and have a conversation with her. I think that could be a beautiful exercise for you. And so now navigating, you're on your journey of healing, and you're starting that process. What does life look like for you right now? You're
I am in one of the best moments of my life right now, Aries. That doesn't mean everything is perfect or there's no moments of chaos, but I feel free, and I didn't know that I was caged or trapped. Just starting with my health, taking better care of myself, being intentional, cutting out a lot of stuff, things that no longer serve me, people, places, and things. Pretty much getting out of survival mode mentally first. I will outwork anyone, but and I truly mean that. But I'm just in a space where I'm realizing like everything does not have to be a struggle. That was embedded in me. Like I'm grateful for where I come from and knowing where I come from. I'm grateful for the opportunities I have here and the life that I'm able to create for myself here. But everything does not have to be a struggle, and having boundaries with myself to take care of myself. Um, that's when I started seeing change in my weight. When I started doing the inner work inside, forgiving myself, telling myself I'm worthy, and actually believing it. That's where I'm at right now. I'm learning to protect my peace. Throwing that word around, oh, protect your peace, protect your energy. And it's like, well, how do you do that? I didn't know how to do that. Just letting anyone and everyone enter my life. And I'm very I'm not guarded, but I'm very careful with this version of me because it took me a lot to get here. I have so much clarity, um, just from cutting out alcohol on a celibacy journey, cutting out toxic people, loving people from a distance, and I wouldn't say not caring, but not allowing other people expectations to make me feel bad about myself or question myself or my judgment. So mentally, where I'm at right now is a wonderful feeling. It's a great feeling because just a year ago I was not here.
So I want to share something that my daughter did, a couple of years ago. prior to sitting with plant medicine and really starting my journey of healing, I was considered a narcissist, a father, narcissist person. And no matter what people would say, what she would say, what her mom would say, what anybody would say, it would go in one ear and out the other because my ego always came into play.
Mm-hmm.
And, as parents, we have egos, mothers and fathers, and a perfect example when you started to speak your truth, then your mom started to throw out just all the things she did for you. So she started to guilt you. But I'm going to share something that my daughter did. And it's something you can do with your mom and your dad. She wrote me a very heartfelt letter. It was a couple pages, and she laid it all out. Okay. Now, when and this was before my journey with plant medicine, before I started my healing process, you couldn't talk to me. You would talk to me, but I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna justify like why. I'm gonna guilt you on all the reasons how I provided for you. Yeah, I wasn't there, but I was working. Who do you think was paying the bills? Who do you think, so all that stuff that parents do. It's just something almost like we're embedded with that's passed on from generation to generation. But by her writing that letter, it hit me emotionally. But I wouldn't show my emotions. But I would read that letter every couple of days. And almost to the point where it almost made me cry because it hit me emotionally. But I was still in that masculine and still in that ego. But
Mm-hmm.
I still have those letters to this day. She'll be one, then she wrote me another one, so forth. But I honestly feel that started to crack the dam. It put some fractures in there because gone was the yelling, gone was the emotions in person. But now I have this paper in my hand
It's just
that I'm
feeling.
reading on my terms. And then when I'd be drinking, I'd even pull it out and read it some more. Okay, so but it started working on me little by little. And then when I started my journey with plant medicine, then it just all the dam just freaking broke. So reason I share that is sometimes speaking your truth isn't going to happen um, verbally.
Mm,
Sometimes you're going to get a stronger message. Sometimes the deliverance is going to be more powerful when it's on paper because you can't escape a piece of paper. You
can't
can read
argue
it.
back and forth.
Absolutely. You can put it away, but you're going to pull it out and you're going to go back and you're going to reread it. And you may reread it again. And so her letters started the process of my healing without me even realizing it. And I share that because you haven't, really had the chance to speak that truth with your father. It may come. May come at some point, but maybe it may not come the way that you think it's going to come. I always thought that my healing was going to happen, that we were going to sit down and we were going to come to this agreement. No, it happened through letters. It happened through letters. And then she did something. She wouldn't let me respond back to it verbally. I had to respond back to it in writing.
Wow.
Mm. You want to talk about power? Wow. When I'm having to respond back to it in writing and having to sit with my thoughts and really think about what she wrote. And it didn't come right away. It took me almost a year before I responded back. And there was a lot of disappointment because she was waiting for the response, waiting, and I just couldn't. At that point, there was still a lot of hurt and pain. So just a little side note on something that you may want to
Yeah,
consider.
my dad, because my dad is like that. He's very hot-headed. Like, just even when he talks, he's not. He doesn't have to be at a 10, but that's a 10 for him. Yeah,
Yeah, you
maybe
know,
that will trigger something. I don't know.
invite them out to do a breath work. Invite them out to do some yoga or meditation. Expose your mom and dad to just a different way of interacting with things.
How do you go about that when it's like I'm in a space now where I know where I've previously forced people to do something or try something or change, and that made me become a person that I just don't resonate with anymore. So now that I'm like, okay, how do I try to introduce them to these things if they're just like mm,
You just
completely not even open to it?
you just invite them out. Invite them out to a sound bath, a sound bowl ceremony, a sound bath. We just go and listen to the music and just sit there and meditate. Something simple like that. And then maybe another one, and then maybe one day a breath work. And you gradually start the introduction. Your healing, their healing is going to come from your healing.
Hmm.
And by seeing how you show up, it's going to pique people's interest. All my daughters have sat with plant medicine now. My dad sat with plant medicine. My mom's close. My mom's close. She's gone
Hmm.
and she sat and been an observer in ceremonies, ayahuasca and mushrooms.
Oh wow.
You would ask me this years ago, I would have said never, ever, ever, because her religious views were so, very intact. But
Hmm.
it starts with just sharing your experience, your journey, whatever you feel called to share, and then starts to pique their interest. It's not about going back and having this journey and then going ahead and pointing the finger at them because that's going to turn them off.
Yeah.
And at
Hmm.
the beginning, that's what I was doing. I'd come back
Same.
and, well, this is the way I am because you weren't there for me. And, da, da, da. And they're like, whoa, whatever the fuck you're doing, stay away from us after you get back.
Yeah, you become so aware now. It's like you know everyone's problems and everything. That's how it was with me at first. Like, hmm.
Yeah, I think starting off with some sound bath ceremonies, look some up in the area and, hey, want to invite you to sound bath ceremony. There's nothing about that vibrational music and just laying there and meditating. It's going to do something to you. I don't care how much in your masculine you are. I don't care how much ego you have. Sitting there with that music and then just being around
Yes.
other people that are conscientious or open to that, it starts to do something. It's little fractures that happen in the dam, and it may come from. I've had like full journeys with yoga. You know, I've had with sound bath, with breath work. Not even with of course with plant medicine also, but they've come in other ways in meditation. So
Hmm.
it's just starting to expose them in a very delicate way is going to start that process. And that can be very healing. And it's a work in progress. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But if you're
Right.
vested to start this process of healing your ancestral lineage, then you're the one that's been chosen. You're the one that's on your path. And if it was easy work, we'd all do it, but it's not.
It's
You have to
not.
be open
It's
to take
not.
that responsibility to hold that torch and to carry it for your family. But the healing that you're doing, I can guarantee you that when you have children, they're not going to experience what you experienced because you're
That's
going to
why I
show up.
haven't had any. That was a fear. Like I was so scared. Like I don't want to have kids and just be a horrible parent or just that was like I was terrified. Like terrified. Now it's like okay, I think I do want kids in the future.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready because the most important thing is even on this journey that I've been on and sitting with plant medicine a bunch of times, I can honestly tell you that I still have mess ups.
Mhm.
But as long as I'm come to the realization that I've messed up and I'm quick to try to change the trajectory, that's the most important thing. I can remember a blowout I had with my daughter just 2 weeks ago, and I knew better, but I allowed my ego and my pride to get the best of me. But then I realized it and I tried to correct it, but then it was too late. So I had to let time pass by. I had to let the emotions kind of um, flare down so that I could have that conversation. We
Mm.
forget that as we're on this journey of self healing, other people aren't at that same place that we're at. We might be at a 5 and they could still be at a -20. And it's a process. I remember coming back from ceremony going like, you're fucked up and you're fucked up and you need to take medicine. Open your mouth. I didn't give you ayahuasca. I didn't give you mushroom. Like I was just like, I
Yes,
and just what's going to just pour it in their mouths. But then you realize like it's not their journey. You know,
right.
their journey is going to come from watching you by you being showing up at the best version of yourself, and you're going to spark curiosity, and it's having those open-ended conversations, and just knowing that although there's you may want to share things with your parents, a lot of times they're not worthy of hearing your experience. So it's okay to really pick and choose what you want to share. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to set the relationship back either. Because speaking your truth can set the relationship back because they may not be ready to hear it. So you really have to
Yeah.
navigate.
And that's why I kind of just paused on everyone. I'm like, okay, I'm having realizations for myself. Let me continue to work through these emotions on my own, what I'm feeling. And if when the time comes, they're in this space, let's try again. Because it was just damaging to me. It was just, I didn't see all the ways my trauma controlled me. Like I was not myself, or I didn't know who I was, who I was supposed to be. So what you just said is true. Because sometimes they're not in the space to receive it, and you can say it doesn't matter how you say it, just by you, like you said, opening that box is like, oh ouch, like because they're not in that space.
Yeah, sometimes it's just setting it up little by little. It's softly introduced, and it could be something as simple as journaling. Maybe you buy them a book um, where they're able to just kind of answer different questions, or the journal, just to start to open up that door, even if it's just a crack, to start to get them comfortable with the process. It was very uncomfortable for my mom and dad to say, I love you. And I just kept on and kept on. And now they say it. But I didn't grow up with, we didn't say, I love you. That was just something we didn't do. But it was just gradually. And then finally, then they've started saying it. But I had to teach them. The child had to teach the parent. And just know that sometimes our children are our greatest teachers. And we as parents just have to be open to accept it or whatever. And
Mhm.
here's the right word, to receive it, not to accept it.
So how do you, for your experience with your parents, when do you, what helps you know when to like not say press the issue, but engage, disengage? Like, how do you know the temperature? Like, what can you say? What has helped you with that dance? Like,
Okay.
because I feel like it's this tug of war. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes. So I'll give you an example of something that would happen with my mom. Whenever I would talk to my mom, a lot of times she would start to go into like all the things that are going on in the family and oh and this and that. And when I came back from a journey, I no longer wanted to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I had to learn to do is I had to learn how to shut it down. So this is one thing I would do is I'd get on the phone with her and she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, uh, your brother or your dad, da da da." I'm like, "Hey, mom, love you, gotta go." Oh, but wait, I'm not done. Okay, love you, gotta go. Okay, and then a couple
Mm-hmm.
days later we talk. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you know what your grandmother did, da da da." Hey, mom, love you, I gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I set up a healthy boundary. I didn't sit here and have this sometimes you don't have to have conversations. You can just set up a boundary. It took about 2 or 3 months, and then all of a sudden, one day I was talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, did I tell you?" I'm like, "Hey, mom, love you, gotta go." It's like, "Oh, I'm doing it again, huh?" Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
all I did was I set up a boundary on how the conversation was going to go. If I didn't want to partake in it, because sometimes I do, most of the time I don't, I almost put up like a trigger phrase to let her know, like, I don't want to be a part of this conversation, so I'm going to let you go. And I ended it with genuine love. So I created a boundary. and that right there helped the relationship.
Maybe it's the way I'm creating the boundaries. Maybe it's not. Maybe it needs a little bit more love. Because I'll just go cold turkey. Like, okay, I'll know. To me, it's like, okay, I'll know. Like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm out. Bye.
Mhm.
Maybe like what you said. Like, okay, mom, love you. Gotta go. Maybe that would, because when I do create these boundaries, it's like, and I don't know if it's just a culture thing. Maybe as well, being Caribbean, it's like you go against anything, you go against the grain, you're shunned. We don't want nothing to do with you. Fend for yourself. We don't care about you no more. You're not a part of the family. Like, you're non-existent. You're the black sheep. So it's like, okay, I set these boundaries up, and it's like, okay, you guys, it's not. It's more like, okay, well, we can't have our way. We want nothing to do. Type of energy.
I think a big part of it too is just because you bring up the whole cultural thing. I can definitely attest to that. And I think a big part of it is just letting her know, like, it has nothing to do with you, mom.
Hmm.
It's part of my journey of healing. If I'm putting up these boundaries, it's not that I don't want to hear what you're saying, but I'm just trying to protect my energy. I'm trying to protect my emotions. And maybe like when you say energy, maybe that's not the right word because what the fuck?
I was gonna say, they don't respond
Yeah,
well to. I say these things, and right now, my whole family for the last probably like 3 years, they probably think I'm cuckoo. I'm not gonna lie to you, not cuckoo, but
yeah.
like you said, it does spark an interest, but it's also with a disdain. Like, what is
Mhm.
she doing? Like, they could tell whatever I'm doing is working, that I'm pouring into myself, that I'm making change in my life, but it's kind of also like a mm, energy with it as well. It's not like a spark of interest where it's like, can you help me? Can you show me? That energy is more so from my friends and peers, um, not so much from my family. So I'm trying to, do better, because I know with setting boundaries is it. I've done it harshly, where it's just cutthroat. So maybe I will try, like, next time an opportunity comes, I will try like a little more compassion and love.
Yeah, the compassion, love. So it could just be the word. It's not energy, but maybe it's you know what? Really don't want my day to go down. So I'd rather not. I don't want to hear about this stuff. Not that I
Mm-hmm.
don't. Not listening to you, but I'm dealing with my own stuff. So I don't want to add to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one of the ways that I've been able to do is just put up healthy boundaries. But I always put up the boundary. I try to put it up with as much love as possible.
Mm-hmm.
you know I know with my daughter, so we talk every day when she goes to work, and sometimes she's a handful in the morning, and she'll start, and I'm like, okay, love you, gotta go. And that's my trigger point, like, okay, I don't want to do this with you today. And we've built enough of an emotional connection now that sometimes she'll fire back some texts and like really nasty texts and stuff, but then afterwards I won't respond, and then I'll just like send love. Once in a while, I'll get sucked in, but and then next day, boom, we're back on the phone again, like nothing happened. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been a work in progress, but it's like if she's triggered that day, and maybe it could just be because nothing I did, maybe just you know, maybe she's had a bad day driving, somebody cut her off, or maybe something happened at home. But I just learned to just shut it down right away, and it's like and sometimes I will stay and listen to it, but I don't respond to it. I just
Mm-hmm.
allowed her to vent. Like, okay, you know, I'll just give her a safe container to vent. So that might be another solution too. Is maybe your mom just needs a safe container to vent.
I do feel like my mom has a lot to heal and to speak on, that I don't, some things that I don't even know about. Um, I don't think she don't have that safe space. And yeah, by me, and like you said, by me now speaking my truth, it's kind of like maybe even a little resentment there, like,
You're triggering her.
yeah, that's why I said, like, I'm triggering her. So it's like, it's like I can't even be around you. Like, I don't want to be around you because anything I say is like, yeah.
Sometimes you just have to navigate the relationship. You have to navigate the
Hmm.
boundaries that you have with your mom. Maybe you're not in a place to have those deep, profound discussions yet because um, she's not there yet. You may be there, but she's not there yet.
Right.
You
And I
know?
can't force or change when she's gonna get there, and that's what I've learned. Yeah. It's important. I don't think, and even in my generation, just seeing how we are, how things are, relationships and kids and family dynamic, I wish people realize like how serious it is, like bringing kids into this life and then not being there to support them emotionally. It really does something to the kid, which they don't know, and they won't know until they're a little older. Looking at the pattern, like wow, yeah.
No, it's so true. You know, how we raise our children, how we show up for them, it's going to have lifelong, lasting effects, not only on our children but on our grandchildren and our great great grandchildren until somebody steps up to start to do the work, and that's to sit with yourself and start the process of, you know, what you're doing is you're breaking that toxic cycle in your ancestral lineage, and you may not break all of it in this lifetime, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with, number one, focused on healing yourself, whatever that looks like. And once you start the process of healing yourself and coming into that stage of enlightenment, then you can start the process of working to help guide, yeah, your mother, your father, your sisters, aunts, uncles.
The whole thing. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that people don't see behind closed doors. A lot of just sitting with yourself in the mess.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And it's rough. It's tough. You know, when I go to these retreats and people think like, "Oh, you're going to this country, you're going to that country. Oh, must be nice." You only knew, you know, you only knew
Right?
being done. You know, sitting on
Mm-hmm.
my mat and crying and purging and reliving trauma. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But if not you, then who? Well, wow, this has been a beautiful episode, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm, you know,
Yeah.
uh, would love to kind of track your journey and see how things evolve over the next year. And any closing thoughts as we start to wrap up?
It's funny you think you're at, like you say, one stage of healing and then you have a conversation or experience something and it's like, okay, there's more. So I'm going to write that letter to my dad and ask those questions. And not deny myself of a relationship with him. Yeah, because I feel like I've given up on that, but just talking with you, it kind of inspired me to try again, I should say, or pick up where I left off. So that's my intention. So thank you for having me and I don't know, inspiring me to dig deeper with that because I was like, that's it, whatever. But yeah.
So here's something that came to my mind right now. It's almost like a download. Don't feel guilty about having a relationship with your dad
Mm.
because your mom didn't feel guilty about having a relationship with her husband that touched you inappropriately. Your journey is your journey. Her journey is her journey.
Whew,
And there's no right or wrong.
thank you.
Absolutely. This is your path to healing. Your path to healing is seeking out answers, truth, whatever that is. You know, and maybe sometimes seeking out the truth isn't as important as just forgiving and moving on. There's nothing your dad can do to make up for not being in your life, for all the missed opportunities. And you don't have to condone the behavior of him not showing up, but you can choose to forgive for yourself so that you can move forward, so that you can live in peace. And same thing with your mom. You don't have to condone how she reacted to the situation, but there's going to be a point where you will have to forgive her so that you can move forward and you can have healthy boundaries. You know, sometimes there comes times when you just love people from a distance.
That's where I'm at right now. Because I finally saw her like the her that's hurting. So it allowed me to just have feelings of compassion. It was very confusing because I was upset. Like, why are you not listening? Why are you not believing me? Why are you not like why you don't believe that I'm telling you the truth? But in that moment I also saw like how could she? Like she's hurting right now. She can't see you. So up until that point, last August, it was like, oh, I forgave her, but really I didn't until we had that outburst and I saw like, oh, okay, this is not even about me. That's when I was like, I released her. I released that need, that validation of wanting her to understand where I'm coming from. So that's where I'm at right now.
As you continue to um, embrace the different tools, journaling, meditation, plant medicine, and so forth. I honestly feel that you're going to be the safe container that your mom needs to start her process to healing. I just feel that in my gut.
Well, oof, I got some work to do then.
It's never
Hopefully one day. Yeah.
no. It's not one day. It's whenever you feel called. We're never going to be in a place completely that okay now I can start. You just have to
Hmm.
get in. One of the most beautiful things that comes from my journeys is I was always a very analytical person. So I would like, okay, if I was going to take on a project or focus on a relationship, it's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and look first, and then I'm going to get ready, and then I'm going to aim,
The
and then I'm going to
planner.
focus.
I'm the planner.
And the one thing that it showed me is I no longer ready, aim, shoot. I just pull the trigger, and whatever happens, happens. Everything's fixable. And yeah, I might just going in and doing it is was now causing me to um, start that process of I'm going to say healing faster. I don't know if that exists, but it's to bring closure to a lot of different issues or circumstances. Because instead of like
Being
overthinking them,
stagnant.
now I'm just going, diving in.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, well, thank you very much. And with that, this has been another beautiful episode for Fatherhood Voices. And thank you for sharing your story. And I look forward to keeping contact with you and seeing how
Thank
your journey goes
you.
with not only your mother and your father, but also with your siblings.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye bye.